Look. Once I start figuring out what's the best camera angle, and I start figuring out what's the proper way to film me, yeah, it's over. It's over for all of y'all. It's over for all of y'all, man. You understand? It's over for everybody that's on YouTube. Once I figure this thing out, you heard? Sorry, that was a little not disrespectful. A little. Where are my manners? What's up? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? Hit them folks. That's crazy. That's such an old dance move. Hope y'all doing good. Hope y'all doing well. Staying prayed up. Feel me? We just had a snowstorm over here. You feel me? And I like the snow. You feel me? Snowballs, snowman, snow angels. You feel me? All that. Snow shoveling. Nah, I'm bugging. Nobody likes doing that. Yo, when I was younger, up in my teen years, I used to go around the block. I used to go like corner stores, pizza spots. I'd be like, yo, let me shovel the front of your store for some money. You know what I mean? A little $10 for this block, this other block, or this pizza spot. He was like, I'm gonna give you money. I'm like, what? Nah, I didn't press him like that. I'm bugging. But he's like, I won't give you money, but I'll give you free pizza. He gave me like 2 slices. I was like, all right, bet, cool. Reach, bro. Good looking. 2 minutes in, and you already withstanding this level of gap. I think one of my favorite books is probably the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. I'm like, where is this coming from? Hold on, man. Hold on. And that was in English. One of the most interesting, crazy parts in that autobiography is, I don't know if you know Frederick Douglass. He was a runaway slave. He ran away. I think he was 20 when he ran away. Finally got his freedom. He came to New York City. He was from Maryland. His life started off like on the country plantations out in the country, and eventually he would be brought to a family in Baltimore, in the city of Baltimore, which is not the country. Then he was sold back into the countryside. There's a lot more of course, there's way more details. Like he did not know his mama. He definitely did not know his dad. I think his dad was white, a master. But they not gonna claim him. Slavery in general was crazy, and I think Caribbean slavery was just another level of atrocity. Just besides the point. There's a part where, because Frederick Douglass, he wrote this. He's like, I hate the Christianity of the land, but I love the Christianity of Christ. Because he was a Christian. Frederick Douglass was one of the main soldiers in that abolition movement to abolish slavery. And he was a Christian. Follower of Jesus. And I feel at the same time that book was very spiritual. It's, he's like, hey, like, when he says, when he first went to Baltimore, because that slavery was just a lot less brutal than the slavery you see out in the countryside. And the type of generosity that the woman that took care of him, and he said, like, that was providence. That was divine providence. He's like, if it weren't that for that moment, he's like, I'm not sure I would be here today as a free man. He's saying that moment when he got transferred to Baltimore was just like a turning point for him. That there is like better life. There's a better life out there somewhere. He's still a slave at that point, but just that little mind shift. God does that a lot where he's Well, if you see something happen in your life, like a shift happen in your life, I don't know. You're moving. In this case, he did move. Was forced. Moving, new job, just like a new season. You know, sometimes God's main focus is just to shift your mindset. Just, hey, you're focused on this, shift it a little bit this way. And even that small mind shift, frame shift, that right there is just like, that's God, Holy Spirit moving, helping you, guiding you, you know. I've mentioned before, our minds are so powerful, so powerful. It's crazy. Frederick Douglass was very, very highly capable individual. Anywho, Frederick Douglass, he was a Christian. But the one thing especially in our quote, I hate the Christianity of the land, is that he noticed that the more religious the slave master was, you know, fervently praying out loud, praying and helping with the church, and you know, from the outside, this is a pious man, religious man of God. He said the more religious they were, the more abusive they were, the more violent they were with the slaves. It was like a direct relationship with how outwardly religious the master was, the more brutal they were, the more sinister they were, really, when it came to treating the slaves. And Frederick Douglass noticed that. And you gotta give props to where it's due. For this man to have suffered through that and still become a Christian, you know, like situations like that, especially with Black Americans, it's like, you know, you want to say that's a white man's religion. Like you can't blame people for saying that. Like the atrocities that happened in the name of Christ, like, you know, that's pretty off-putting. Like, why would you even want to entertain the religion of Christianity? But I think it's also a testament of the living God, that besides all of this religious pharisaical things that Frederick Douglass is pointing out and he lived through, yet still saying he loves the Christianity of Christ and still becoming a Christian and using the Christian values to eventually abolish slavery in the country of the United States of America. But I think we still see that today, you know, sometimes the more religious a person seems on the outside, it's a mask. I think that's was Frederick Douglass's point, was that the more religious the person seemed, it was like a mask to hide really their evils, their sins, how brutal they were. They're like, the more religious I become, maybe it hides my sin. I can hide behind this mask of this godly persona. Very interesting. Jesus said when he's calling out the Pharisees, you know, they not having it. They're like, yo, Jesus, you're bugging. I'm not gonna lie, we're planning to kill you, in their minds. And Jesus is like, you guys are mad because if I didn't say anything to you, my words, if I didn't call you out, you would have no sin. But now because you have no cloak for your sin, now you have to get me. You know, it's when the sin got exposed that the Pharisees are like, we're gonna kill you, Jesus. You know. And I think that's one of the worst sins. I don't count as a sin. No, bro, of course that's a sin, bro. I mean, like, one of the worst offenses that I feel like a human can do is just, like, put it, like, literally using God's name in vain in the way that you live. So, like you claiming to be Christian, but you're acting in such a diabolical way. It's like that right there. Like, if you're the reason why people don't want to come to Jesus for real, because you are religious, but the way you live life says otherwise. Like, you cannot blame people for saying, yo, bro, look at Christians. Look what, like, they know better than the other, evil person. They just happen to put on this religious mask, and that's man. You literally using God's name in vain. Like, it's disrespectful to God to say you're doing things for God, but in reality, that's not something God would want you to do. Anyways, y'all, take that how y'all want to take it. I hope y'all doing well. I'm gonna be big. Son, I'm stuttering. I think it's time for this video to be over.